Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Kapows Arcade Adventures. In this adventure, we are heading up to York, Pennsylvania to check out both the White Rose Gameroom show as well as Timeline Arcade in historic downtown York. Now, on this adventure, I had the wonderful opportunity to have my buddies Jeff Kinder from the Dragon's Lair Project and his wife Katie, our friend Bruce Christian, who's also part of the Delusionals Roundtable group that we have over on Delusionals channel on YouTube, as well as my brother-in-law Andy, who's just kind of getting into the hobby. He's started collecting and kind of getting his game fix on as well. Now, we checked out the White Rose Gameroom show. It was fantastic. If you don't know anything about this show, it's been around for about 25 years. It is very heavily focused on pinball. So if you are a pinhead and you're in the York area when the show is going on, I would really suggest that you guys check it out. If you've been to Pinfest in Allentown, it is very, very similar to how Pinfest is both organized and run. You'll see a lot of the same vendors, the same pins, the same people that come to play in the IFPA tournament. It's a really, really good representation of being able to have two major pinball-focused shows in the state of Pennsylvania within a 12-month time period. Now, if you're looking to get your classic arcade fix on, and you're in York, you can kind of double down and both attend the White Rose Gameroom show like we did and head on over to Brandon Spencer's Timeline Arcade. Now, Brandon is 43 years old. He's been collecting video games since he was about 15. The first two titles he got back when he was a young kid was a Addams Family pinball machine and a full-size Donkey Kong Nintendo cab. And that is what kind of put him on that path towards gaming that eventually turned into his full-time business, both starting out as a collector or gamer and then taking the love for arcade games and turning it into a fantastic arcade. Now, his York location's been open for about 10 years. If you go on their website, whether it be the actual website on the internet or their Facebook page, you will see that their location boasts about 300 games, and that includes classic arcade games, console games, pinball machines, skee ball, basketball, kind of something for everybody is what you will experience when you go into his arcade. Now, he has an original location in Hanover, which is temporarily shut down because it's going through kind of a remodel, retheming of that arcade location. And in talking with Brandon, he said he's got normally about 165 titles. That is also inclusive of classic arcade games, pinball machines, and classic console gamings as well at that site. Now, after they are done with their remodel, from what Brandon was telling me, it's kind of going to be focused around that 1950s style drive-in movie theater experience that was specific to horror movies of the time, like your classics like The Black Lagoon, Dracula, Frankenstein, Haunted House. That is kind of what he is hoping for as they proceed with their remodel of the Hanover location. Now, if you happen to be there when both locations are open, check them both out and see what each location has to offer. What you think is a good arcade may not be the same thing as me. So I would love to see your comments that you can kind of go ahead and leave on down below and tell me what it is that you look for when you go into a location. So why don't you guys sit back, relax, and check out the video and see what it is that Timeline Arcade has to offer, and I'll see you guys in a few minutes. So the first thing that you're going to see with what Timeline Arcade is right here. You are out on Main Street in York, Pennsylvania. Now, in talking with Brandon Spencer, who's the owner and creator of Timeline Arcade, York is kind of a multi-destinational city here within Pennsylvania. You know, whether it's, you know, summer, spring, fall, or winter, you know, depending upon the seasons or holidays, he's got a constant flow of tourists because of the college that's here in town, as well as other things that are here within York itself that kind of brings crowds of people to this location. Now, according to Brandon, they are the second largest arcade in the state of Pennsylvania. He's got about 300 games. And as soon as you kind of walk down Main Street here, one of the first things that you see, you know, as you come up to the arcade, he's got a collection of quarter rides out front for the younger kids to kind of get on and entice you to come into the location. Now, I love decor. You know, that's the first thing that you see as you walk up. You've got 80s movies paraphernalia posters on the inside. You got Pong over here in the window. You got Gremlins hanging from the ceiling. It's really just begging you to come on in and start playing games. So it is a pay-to-play location. It's $25 to play all day. They're open till about 2 a.m. on most weekends. And tonight is a Friday night that we're here. We're actually in town for the White Rose Gameroom show, and we decided to come on over after the show and actually get our video game fix on. So here we are. We're kind of lucky. There's not a huge crowd in here tonight, so I'm going to give you guys a full-on walkthrough. Now, in talking with Brendan, the idea is that he grew up in the 80s. He did not want to have a barcade like everybody else does. So it is BYOB. If you want to actually bring alcohol here, they're okay with that as long as you're over 21. You show it when you check in at the door. But this is a true arcade destination. There's no food here other than general snacks and sodas that you can buy. The whole purpose in coming into here is to get your game fix on, whether it be vids or pins, classic games that you're used to playing from back in the 80s, or some of the more modern things. They've got stuff that applies to everybody. So one of the first things that you'll see as far as rows of games when you come in is you're greeted with a beautiful Nintendo row that he's got set up here in the front. Starting with a Fix-It Felix, Donkey Kong Jr., Popeye, Dr. Mario, Play Choice 10, and Punch-Out. You've got some other games over here in the corner. The Pennsylvania skill games that he's got. And then everybody's favorite, you cannot have an arcade from the 80s unless we talk about Polybius. This is a really nice, rendition of Polybius. I've already kind of messed with it a little bit. It plays great, and I'm going to kind of come back to this later. Then you've got a Space Invaders Cabaret, Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, and then over on this side, you've got some of the more modern stuff that he's got right out here in the front. Percussion Freaks Fifth Mix, Poop It Up, Jambo Safari, and then Snowboarder. He does display movies and stuff up here on the large wall. You've got air hockey, pool, Star Wars Battle Pod, one of my favorites. You guys know I'm a huge Star Wars freak, so I'm definitely going to be playing that later on. After you come in, before you kind of come through the turnstile, you'll meet one of the 6 employees that Brandon has working for him. He's here a lot, so there's a very good chance if you come down, you're going to run into him on site. And this is where you kind of in process, you pay your fee, you get issued your wristband, you can buy your snacks or drinks up here in the front, and then you can go ahead and kind of explore throughout the arcade. You've also got the 4-player versus Battle Pac-Man up here. It's always a favorite of ours, kind of get going on. And let's go ahead and start heading into the back. When I talk about a complete arcade, it's not just about the games and the lineup. It's about how well are the games maintained. Is there a good enough collection that appeals to not just collectors, or folks that grew up in the 80s, but, you guys can see right here, we have younger generation of kids that are here playing. So do you have games that appeals to them? Kind of everybody across the board. Do you have vids? Do you have pins? Is there something that everybody would like to kind of come in here and get their game fix on and play? So you can see, kind of as we go down the pin line here, you got a bunch of folks that are in here playing pins. Pretty much more pinball players in here tonight than we have video game players. From a decor standpoint, he is killing it in this place. He's got great art up on the walls, excellent use of colors throughout the arcade, really vibrantly bringing this place to life. Right above me here, if this doesn't scream 80s, I don't know what does, but you've got a BMX bike with the milk crate on the front and E.T. sitting into it. Just waiting for Steven Spielberg to yell cut as we kind of look through it. Since I'm mentioning E.T., over here on the wall, if you guys are familiar with the famous, the city of Alamogordo and the dump location where they dug up Atari cartridges that supposedly, that led to the crash of Atari with the Atari ET. So here on the wall, he actually has one of the Atari ETs as well as one of the centipedes from the 2600 with a certificate of authenticity from the city of Alamogordo that these actually did come out of the dig location. You guys can go online. There's actually a documentary all dedicated to this if you've never seen it. One of the other great things about this location that Brandon takes a lot of pride in.
The arcade's large number of games and his ability to keep them up and running.
And as I've walked through, they have 2 games out of that are down. Everything else that's in here is all up and running. Now, some monitors might need a little bit of adjustment here and there, but it's very infrequent that I'll go out and I'll do one of these arcade tours where you have so many games that are either not working or not well maintained, and Brandon is just doing a great job here at Timeline Arcade. So as we kind of go down this wall, you'll see more art, some of the other games that they've got. Frogger, Karate Champ. You guys heard in my last video, I'm a huge lover of this game. Phoenix, Dig Dug, Joust, Tetris, Afterburner, Taito's Chase HQ, Robotron, Centipede, Timber, Tapper. Now that's kind of sad. You guys, if you know what you're looking at, that Timber is actually running off of a multi-board stack, not the original hardware, I believe. We have a Gorf that's having a little bit of an issue. Tron and Dragon's Lair along this wall. And then as I go back up this way, we've got Gunblade, which I want to definitely try this later, sitting next to Rampage World Tour. And then he kind of has all of his Star Wars games grouped together. Star Wars Trilogy Arcade. This is actually the one Star Wars game I do not have in my collection. Return of the Jedi. You guys have heard me say this before. You either love it or you hate it. Only 800 of these were actually made by Atari. Atari Star Wars, my very first game I got when I got into collecting. I said it was the only one I was ever going to have, and then 1 became 2, 2 became 4, 4 became 8, and then it became 2 rooms in my house, my basement, and my garage full of games. In talking with Brandon, his very first game, he started when he was 15 years old collecting, and his first pin was Addams Family, and his first vid, what did he say his first vid was? I'm going to have to think on that one and get back to you guys. We got Rampage over here, Turtles in Time, and Simpsons. Along this wall, he's got all of his MK games together. Mortal Kombat 4, 3, Mortal Kombat 2, original Mortal Kombat, Smash TV, and Primal Rage, and then X-Men versus Street Fighter. And then one of the, the other shooters he's got in here, House of the Dead 2, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in Time, and then the AMC Walking Dead by Raw Thrills. This is probably one of the more modern games that he has here on location. Then he's got more of his Midway games kind of grouped together over here. We've got Burger Time, Galaxian, Galaga, Miss Pac-Man, and Pac-Man. Again, the art is just fantastic in here. The murals that he's had painted. That's Brandon right there. And as we kind of go down the pin row, we've got Walking Dead, AMC, Ghostbusters, Star Trek, Jurassic Park, Godzilla, Star Wars, The Mandalorian, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Munsters, Black Knight Swords of Rage, Guns N' Roses with the Topper, Radical, Bride of Pinbot, Elvira, and No Fear on this wall. I love these chairs that look like a hand. The real Ghostbusters. More really cool art on the wall. Outrun, Dell from Delusional Arcade. I'm sure this speaks to your heart. The Outrun King. Data East RoboCop. Another one of the Nor cabinets. The Ocean Hunter by Sega. Then he's got a sit-down area for consoles back here. With stadium, with not just the hand seating, but I love kind of the, almost looks like my high school's auditorium seating got taken out and put into here. He's got Top Skater, Battle Shark. I almost bought one of these a couple of years ago down in Fredericksburg by where I live. It had been for sale on Craigslist for a while, and I never realized how big this cabinet was, and I am grateful it did not wind up in my collection. Police Trainer, Marvel Superheroes, Tekken Tag. You know, you can't be a good arcade unless you've got a DDR, and he's got the Dance Dance Revolution Extreme here. The ginormous, you could live in this thing and charge people rent, 6-player X-Men. It's the size of a small apartment in New York City, folks. Crazy Taxi, and then 2 linked together Sega Daytona USAs. Now, it's actually 2 buildings connected together. Yeah, he does do parties. He's got a party room in here. You can see timeline to the arcade. Lots of neon effects going on. And then as you come and cross into the second building in the back here, again, really cool neon that he's got. It's a dinosaur kind of with a proton blaster on its back from Ghostbusters. More really vibrant coloring that he's done into here. And we'll kind of walk you guys through this section. So back here we've got a Taito Superman, track and field, Space Invaders, Berserk. We've got a Centipede, a Tubin, right next to Assault. I think that's great that he placed both games together. The cabinets are very similar in design. You know, these are those very slim style that Atari came up with at one point. So it's really neat to see both of them right next to each other. Rolling Thunder, monitor needs a little bit of work there. Road Riot 4-wheel drive, Road Blasters in the System 1 cab, Vindicators, Missile Command full size, Asteroids, and Kangaroo. Here's one of the 2 that are down. You know, it's the Pole Position 2 cockpit. He's got a 720. And then right across from it, the only other game that's down right now is his Hard Driving. He's got a nice Pac-Mania back here. Namco's Soul Edge. Sky Shark back here in the corner. Revenge of Doe, Ghosts and Goblins, WWF Superstars, WWF WrestleFest. You know, in my last video, I talked about unique games that you see out on locations. And when I was out in Vegas at Player One, they had a Satan's Hollow. You don't always see it on site. Not only does he have a Satan's Hollow here, but he has a Satan's Hollow Cabaret, which is only the second time I've actually seen one at an arcade. The other one is at Dave Balsamini's place in Morristown, New Jersey, at the Game Vault. Now along the front wall here, you know, as I kind of walk through that back section, you've got K2 Killer Instinct, WWF WrestleMania, NBA Jam, and then you kind of come around this way to Guitar Hero. You got International Shootout, which is it's a soccer themed game where one player gets on one side with essentially a paddle controller, and then you just hit the balls back and forth to each other. You got Foosball here in the back. Now these kind of appeal more to the younger kids. Spider Stompin', Monkey Mole Panic, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Drop Pizza game, the Wacky Gato, and the Ribbit Racing. You know, it's funny. I said we're here for the White Rose Gameroom Festival, and I've never played Spy Hunter, the pinball machine, until today. And I played it at the White Rose Gameroom show. They had one. It was really nice. And then I come on over here just a couple of hours later, and Brandon's got one here in his arcade. So in one day, I've actually seen this on location twice now. Now, I know the game doesn't get a lot of love, especially amongst the pinball enthusiasts. I have a Spy Hunter, the actual video game. I would love to have this if I had space, just so I could say I have both the vid and the pin together. I do have a Pinbot, so I'm going to definitely check out his Pinbot, kind of see how it plays here in a little bit. As we continue down this backside, he's got a huge wall of TVs showing classic 80s music videos up here, right above his Namco Time Crisis 2. Next to that, he's got his Dark Silhouette Silent Scope. And then across from it is Mr. Do, Spy Hunter, and Stargate. Now this is one of my favorite features he's kind of got going on back here. It's a retro-style 80s living room that he's kind of recreated, even with velvet Atari joystick paintings on the wall. Not Elvis, but the Atari 2600 joystick in velvet. Now, next to it, he does have Elvis clock. So, you know, how can you go wrong with that type of decor? I think he borrowed these TVs from my grandmother's living room at some point. And just like my grandmother's living room, it eventually turned into a TV stand when it didn't work, and we just put another TV on top of it. Now you can come back here, you can sit down, you know, in your vintage 80s style couch, and you can get your console game on, whether it be any one of the Atari games he has, the NES that he's got going back here right now with Duck Hunt on it, the Super NES that's over here, or the Genesis system. This is a really cool place if you want to get away from the noise of the main arcade and just kind of come back here and hang out and pretend like you're back in your parents' basement or their living room from the 80s. Now this is the only games he has on location in storage that are not working, and we don't count this amongst the other games up front. So he's got a Crystal Castles, Mortal Kombat, and Zaxxon that are not working right now. He's got a Street Fighter 2 in the back here. Why don't you test your strength while you're at it? Captain America and the Avengers. A couple of Crane games. And then as we kind of come up this way on the wall, you get into some of the other fighters he has. Street Fighter, 2013 Fiesta 2, another Dance Dance game. Off-road. And then we're going to kind of finish this out by coming up this other side now. You've got Rush 2049, two of them linked together, two Hydro Thunders, Strider. I love this game when I was a kid on my console system, when I had it on my Genesis. POW Prisoners of War, The Legend of Cage, Final Fight, Akari Warriors, Coors Light Bowling. He's got a Neo Geo over here, Carnival, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, Sega The Lost World, Lethal Enforcers, Lethal Enforcers 2 Gunfighters, and Mad Dog 2. And then on this wall, we have got Gauntlet Legends, and then you've got a Nick's Arcade custom build that he has that I believe is running a Sega Genesis inside of it. And Title Fight back here in the corner. Oh, and I forgot two more, The House of the Dead and G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, because knowing is half the battle, as they say. So you guys can see it's a beautiful arcade, kind of complete package on this walkthrough. You've got a great selection of games that kind of appeal to all generations. You know, vids, pins, everything across the board. Classic consoles, excellent decor, great location, good crowd. So if you guys are here in the York area and you want to come on down, get your game fix on. I cannot say enough positive things about what Brandon's done here at Timeline Arcade. All right, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed that tour, the little bit that I was able to show you of White Rose Gameroom Show, as well as what Brandon's got going on over at his York location at Timeline Arcade. If you're in the area and you're looking to get your game fix on, I would really suggest that you guys go check it out. In talking with Brandon, what he was telling me was that, you know, Timeline, whether it's, you know, Monday through Friday, they'll average about 200 people a day. And then on any given Saturday throughout the year, regardless of season or holiday or whatever it is that's going on, he will see about 2,000 people a day that will kind of roll through the arcade on any given Saturday throughout the month. Now, getting to go there both on Friday night and coming back on Saturday had two very distinctly different vibes for me. Friday night, I had more of an opportunity to kind of explore the arcade in detail, examine games, look at pins, check out the decor that he had going on, and really kind of soak in what it was that Brandon was trying to get across with the arcade. Going back on Saturday was a lot of fun because all of my friends that came up to kind of experience both White Rose Gameroom Show with us, as well as check out downtown York, we were all able to kind of go over there and all get our game fix on together. The arcade was jumping and thumping. I mean, it was packed. They had some other events that were taking place in downtown York that day that kind of lended itself to the overall experience that we were having at the arcade, and we had a great time. So if you're in the area, go on in, check it out, stay for an hour, play for the whole day, whatever it is that you want to do. If you see Brandon working behind the counter, just go up to him and say hi and, hey, thanks for letting me kind of come on in here. He will appreciate it, and you're going to love your experience. So please hit the like and subscribe button. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see my next adventure so you get notified, you'll go ahead and get that information as soon as it's available, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time.